Hearts Were Plastic Free. We're back for another episode. Corey and Phil, thanks for joining us. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Today we're talking about landfill, and Corey and I generally use this term and we explain lots of things that happens with landfill. But Corey, let's just go back to basics and tell everyone, what is landfill and what does it do?
Well, my understanding of landfill is it's really where our waste is disposed of and covered up with soil so that it doesn't interact with the environment, which potentially releases toxins or whatever. So we just want to bury and forget most of the time.
I often wonder, the garbage collectors come every week, pick up everyone's rubbish in the street, do that around the whole suburbs, around the country. Like, what does that actually look like? And I suppose there's some images now we've got up on screen, but what happens to it over time? Do we separate it out?
No, I don't think it doesn't get touched. Yeah,
unlike
unlike an industrial compost facility where we are turning it over and there's very strict guidelines on what must happen there. Yep, covered with soil and left.
So these landfill stats you're going to share with us are separate to anything. It's not part of the recycling outlets that things are recycled. So if we put things like hard plastics in landfill, they stay there.
Correct.
They could have been
recycled into another product. Yep, or glass.
So the importance of actually using that recycling bin.
Yes.
For what it's the purpose of it, because you're taking out of landfill and having something that could be reused or it's got another life.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. So, and just talking about things like that, so something like an apple will last up to 6 months in landfill. Yeah,
before it just
so it doesn't break down quickly just because it's an apple.
But 6 months is better than 100 years.
6 months is much better than 100 years. There's really varying estimates here based on the landfill. How much water is there in that environment, any aerobic conditions and so forth. But a nappy, 150 to 500 years estimate. According to UK reports, something as simple as wet wipes up to 100 years in landfill.
So,
and when they do break down, especially plastic ones, they break down into microplastics,
which creates other atmospheric issues. So, and then in terms of, do you think there's enough education or awareness of what landfill is for people? I mean, you've covered that now, but I'm guessing a lot of people don't realise that. My rubbish gets picked up and it's someone else's problem. But
I think
it's our problem.
I think I agree with you. There's not enough education, and that's what's just about to change in Australia. I think there's a very fast movement towards educating people around green waste, recycling, and landfill waste, red bin waste as we refer to it in South Australia. And that's even reflected in the new FOGO schemes that have been rolled out in South Australia, which we're a member of at home. So our landfill bin only gets picked up every 2 weeks.
And some other states are doing this.
Yeah, I know it's rolled out to some other states, which is awesome. And our green bin gets picked up every week. So it's a total encouragement around, diverting more any food waste and organic waste into our green bin. And out of landfill.
And then I think that also encourages the recycling thing. I mean, if your general bin, I remember interstate, I'd been in Melbourne, and the red bin was picked up fortnightly.
Yep.
Here it's the opposite. Like our general bin is picked up weekly, and things like the green and recycling bin are picked up fortnightly. If we actually maybe reverse that, we might remove things out of the rubbish. It's the low-hanging fruit really for local government.
And that's what hopefully we roll out the FOGO scheme nationally, and that'd be great. But a couple of quick stats. According to the ABS, I need my glasses for this one, over 75 million tonnes of solid waste went into landfill in 2018-2019. Half of that was sent for recycling.
In Australia?
27% was sent to landfill for disposal. So included in this is, some really big. We're not just talking household waste analysis here. We're talking overall.
So
we're talking
workplaces,
manufacturing, construction. Households is actually only 16.3% of that total waste. In the category.
Household is what?
16.3% of the total waste.
Yeah, I'm just thinking,
taking into account construction and manufacturing.
We've got to talk about construction in another episode because I think of all the stuff on those big dump bins on those sites and what they must take away. Besides pile wrappers and stuff.
Huge. So the real takeaway here, plastic waste, which is what we're quite focused on. 2.5 million tonnes were generated. Only 9% of that plastic waste was sent for recycling, while 84% was sent to landfill. 32% of plastic waste was high density polyethylene. So that's what we still are terrible at in Australia. And the collapse of Red Cycle of late hasn't helped in 2022, but that's what we're terrible at, is actually recycling our plastics. I know there's a lot of government funding with new schemes around that, but
it goes back to what we discussed.
So poorly.
And I'm guessing textiles might be in that, because a lot of the plastics in textiles, would those polyesters and fabrics?
Well, yeah, that's a great point as well.
Included in that. But it's what we've been discussing about, just avoiding plastic in the first place.
Yeah.
Because then it's not ended up there.
Another interesting thing, going back to that overall recycling statistic, half of our waste in Australia is recycled. In Germany, it's over 70% already. So, those numbers
there are some models
keep increasing.
Some models that we could definitely follow. And I think even, particularly our city areas, our big cities could follow what countries like Germany do, for sure.
There's also some interesting stuff when you just start looking at household waste. In some of those European countries, they're close to almost zero landfill waste, because they do break it down into so many bins, and there's incentive schemes around, like for instance in Germany, it's not just limited to, say, putting 10 cents on cans, but they actually do have costs for companies that are manufacturing plastic packaging, and there's a cost to that which is passed on to the consumer.
Yeah, and that's just a different mindset and a culture that you create, but it takes decades. I mean, the Germans are pretty good at that. I've seen that in Italy and Spain as well.
Yep.
And there's no, like I said, there's no reason why we couldn't do it. If you force people to deal with their waste instead of just thinking, the truck's going to come and they're going to deal with it, we take more care of it, because no one wants sort of crap loaded up at home.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
There are ways of doing it, and the real opportunity is teaching young kids how to do it, because if they learn from a young age, they follow these habits for life.
Yeah. So our focus really is focusing on that plastic waste statistic, how do we keep more plastic out of landfill? That's what we want to focus on.
Well, I think, like I said before, let's avoid it from the first place.
Correct.
We spoke with Claire last year about fabrics and textiles and things like natural fibres, cotton, for example. Cotton breaks down depending on if it's 100% from a week to up to 5 months in landfill, compared to something that might be a polyester or a blend, with wool end. So, and what quality of clothing can we reuse? And I think that's the part too. What can be reused instead of, does it have to be dumped?
Yeah.
Like, can you do something else with something before we actually end up putting in the bin?
Yeah.
So many opportunities out there.
Just a couple of others. The obvious one: consume less single-use plastics. There's a great drive in society to consume less single-use plastics. Obviously, something pretty close to our heart in terms of plastic wet wipes, which we're trying to draw attention to in society.
That's a huge one. But we've seen now. I think it's New South Wales got rid of single-use plastics last year.
Yep.
Supermarkets are getting rid of all the plastic bags out there. But are we questioning other little things that we just might be sort of slipping by under our noses that end up as one of these landfill stats?
Yep.
So if you've got any thoughts or suggestions or photos or videos you want to share, please put them our way. We'd love to hear more on this conversation, because landfill is one that's not going away. It's getting bigger, but it's got to stop somewhere. It can't just keep compounding. Someone's going to have to deal with it sometime, and the future generations are there to deal with that. And what does it do in terms of all the pollution, microplastics and other things that we discussed previously? So throw them our way. Corey and I would love to hear from you. Corey, anything else you're going to wrap up with?
I've statted out the summary.
Get rid of that landfill, cut it down, and until the next episode, if it starts with plastic free, we'll see you then.